Hey, hello there. Welcome aboard the 757 Spy flight deck. And as you can see, finally getting around to doing a cold and dark on the CRJ-700. It is probably one of the most popular airplanes that you can get in Microsoft Flight Simulator right now because it's got an updated database and it's really a very, very nicely done airplane. I mean, this is a nicely done airplane. Right? Take a look at this thing. No. This thing. There we go. There it is. This is actually a really nice airplane. Now, the airport that we're at, Phoenix Sky Harbor. Okay, Phoenix is a little bit messed up today. I don't know what the problem is with that. But this is a cold and dark flight, and it's the whole point of being able to do these cold and darks like these is pretty simple. We're going to take a real United Express flight, although I think it's really a Delta Connection flight. It's a SkyWest Flight 3134, Phoenix to Salt Lake City. This flight was scheduled to depart at 7:35 a.m., but I actually ran into a few problems. And one of the things that I suggest is if you do run into problems with this airplane, go into your content manager and delete the airplane and then just reinstall it. And that took care of all of the problems. We are Gate Bravo 3 right now. The add-ons that I am using for this is SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief. SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief are both free. Navigraph Data and NDP Charts are some other things that I'm using. And then the only other one is the free toolbar pushback, which I got to tell you, it just keeps getting better and better and better. Whole thing is I'm going to be keeping this super simple. There are a lot of super deep rabbit holes that we can jump down in this airplane. But again, this is not the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what is working for me. And so hopefully it's something that's going to work for you too. And so if this is the first time you've done a cold and dark video with me like this on YouTube, the whole idea is for you to fly along with me. Okay, I'm going to have a couple of web links in the description as time goes by. But what you can do with this is pause and restart the video. You could also roll the video back a little bit if I did something a little bit too fast. And I'm going to try and go through every step that I possibly can here and make all of this work. Today's flight plan, Phoenix to Salt Lake City. So if you feel like it, stop everything, get your airplane all loaded up, and get ready to do Phoenix to Salt Lake City with me. We're going to be departing off of runway 08. Our cruise altitude's 38,000 feet. Doing the Quacky departure, a couple of checkpoints in between, and then the Queen 5 arrival onto runway 16 right at Salt Lake City. Flight time should be 1 hour and 13 minutes, not 1 hour and 413 minutes. Embarrassing, I didn't spell check this stuff. Flight distance today is 471 miles. Our cruise speed's going to be right around Mach 0.76. So let's go ahead and jump into the airplane right now. This is how you'd find the airplane. The one thing that I have done before everything, and this is one of the things that you should do if you've got, no matter what kind of controls you have in your own personal cockpit, just go ahead and look down and do what I call jiggle the stick. Okay, move the stick around just a little bit, because if you don't have a connection to your throttles and stuff, that's going to be a problem. Other thing to do, move your rudder pedals. That's a good idea too. And then on this particular airplane, look over here and click the center of the electronic flight bag. Okay, the AeroSoft logo should pop up and it should look really good. And if it doesn't, then that means that you've got a problem. Those few tests to get you started is probably going to save you a little bit of trouble. Now, one of the things here is the throttles are kind of locked down right now. So if we unlock them, you can't really move them at this point yet. So you can't really test the throttles. So we're going to just hope that the throttles work on this one. And there we go. The flight plan is all ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the aircraft, and we already have chocks in place. Those are in place to start. Let's go ahead and open up all the doors, and we're going to call for a ground power unit. And so there's the door open. If we had a jetway, one of the things that we would do is, as you see over here on this airplane, we've got the handrails to walk up the steps. Well, if we had a jetway, one of the things that you could do is you could go over here and you could go ahead and click this button for guardrails, and that would drop them down. And then you could use the really cool pushback helper and go to aircraft and hit jetway, and it would the jetway would come right out, just the way they do in the real airplane. They drop those guardrails so that you can put a jetway over there. Unfortunately, Phoenix Sky Harbor has a little bit of attitude this morning. Might need a little bit of work. I actually tried to update this before the flight, and I didn't check it out. And so I'm going to go and be removing this from my community folder a little bit later on. I'm going to assume that we can power up the airplane and do all the other good stuff. So as you can see, the power truck is coming on up there. And boy, the power truck gets awfully close to us. One of the things that happens with the power truck is you will see the light kind of flashing in your cockpit. And at night, that's a little bit on the annoying side, but that's just kind of the way it is. So what do? Well, the first thing that I usually do is go down here and I go to my performance tab. And you see here at the top, I'm going to go ahead and change it. You have two options here, change to zero fuel weight or change back to passengers and cargo. Well, my flight plan that I get out of SimBrief gives me a zero fuel weight. It doesn't give me the number of passengers or anything like that. If it does, I haven't found it on this yet. And by the way, I'm using the United Airlines 2016 format for my flight plans here. Most people are using the Lido style of flight plans that I've noticed on other live streams. I just haven't found my way around that yet. So the big thing that I'm going to look for is this number right here. It's the zero fuel weight. So that's going to load in our bags and our passengers. The other thing that I'm going to look for is plan gate fuel. And so it's plan gate fuel, and that's going to be our fuel for today's flight. So go over here, and you've already got this thing highlighted in green. Just delete that. Look at your flight plan, 27443. Type in 27443 and enter. There is our zero fuel weight. For fuel, it's 3846. So let's go and delete. 3846 and enter. There is our fuel, and there's our passengers and cargo. Next thing I'm going to do is go to the bottom here, and I'm going to set the payload into the simulator. That loads the airplane with the proper bags and passengers. It also loads the airplane with the fuel. So we're good to go there. Now it's time to actually start flipping some buttons here. And the way I usually do that is go up here, and the first thing I'm going to do is pop on the battery master. It's going to start making a little bit of noise for us. We do have ground power, so I'm going to punch that button, and that means that ground power is now in use. We'll go down here to the external lights, and I'm going to turn on the nav lights. That lets people walking around out there know that there's somebody in the cockpit punching little buttons and stuff like that. Over here, we've got several hydraulic switches. So there's 1, 3A, 3B, and 2. I think that what I've learned is you want to turn on the 3A hydraulic system now. We're also going to turn no smoking to on, and then emergency lights to arm. Okay, no smoking to on right now. This is a U.S. domestic flight, no smoking, but also we're refueling the airplane, so we don't want people smoking while we're refueling. The next thing to do is go over here, and I'm going to turn the overhead lights like this up. This is also basically that is the overhead integrated lighting, and that just makes all of these little labels up here just pop out a little bit more. It's so much easier to see that way. Next thing to do is looking over here pretty closely. I'm going to look over here, and I have integrated lighting. I'm going to turn up my integrated lighting about halfway up, see how it makes all of the little labels pop out just a bit. And I'm going to drop the display down just a little bit. Those are some things that you're going to want to probably look to adjust to, the way that you like that. The next thing that I do is I get rid of the armrest, and then we can kind of look down here just a little bit. And we've got more lighting down here, integrated lighting and flooding. So I'm going to turn up the integrated lighting here on the pedestal. And so integrated lighting is going to pop up just a little bit more. If it were nighttime, you saw the two little knobs for floodlights. I would have also added some floodlights. Master and caution are flashing at me. Let's just go ahead and pop that off right here and right now, because there's no reason for us to be cautious. Looking over here, the active databases and the information that I've got here is February to March is what I have. The date here says 23 August of 21. I believe that I've got the latest navigation data up there, even though it says February to March. It says 23 August, so I think I've got it updated, but I might be wrong on that one. In fact, I am wrong. That's today's date. Okay, I know what the problem is. I reinstalled the airplane. I think that wiped out the database. I have to put in new nav data through Navigraph. This is getting off to a good start, isn't it? But we're going to plow forward. Let's do the position init right now. Two ways that you can do this. You could go and do KPHX, Phoenix, put that up there, and do B2. That's our gate number, B02. See if that gate shows up. It's not found. So let's see, clear that out. How about B2? Will that work? Hey, that worked out pretty good. And so that at some airports, if you know your airport latitude and longitude and your gate, you can go and take that and put that in the scratch pad and go ahead and set that in as your position set. Now, let's say none of this works for you. There is a second thing to do. Hit the next page button, see where it says GNS S1. Grab that position, put that in the scratch pad, go back to the previous page and put the position in there, and you're all set up. Okay, things are starting to happen here. Let's look back down here. We do have chocks in place, so we can get this out of the way, and I'm going to go down and turn on the navigation IRSs. IRS 1 and 2, set it to nav. So we got to get those things popped in. I think I have gone and inadvertently set my alignment to instantaneous. You do that over here in options. So, yep, it's an instantaneous nav. So I've gone and done that. That's why that happens there. So there's the reason why. I really should set that back to normal so that I could be like a real pilot, but okay. Next thing I'm going to do is look up here. We're going to turn on the recirculating fans on the airplane. That's probably a good idea to turn that on too. If it were wintertime, I would go ahead and turn on my windshield heaters to low. But at this point in time, we are in Phoenix, and I suspect that that's not really necessary at the moment. Next thing to do is go into the flight plan here. And our flight plan needs us to put in the departure and the arrival. A lot of my information I use comes off of a little thing that I call the flight strip. And this is a text file that I create for almost every flight. It works really, really nicely for my flights if I'm going to be on VATSIM. It was either this or have just reams of paper and pens and everything all over my desk. So I've started using this. If you go over and fly with me on Twitch and get on the Discord page, I update this every day when I put out a flight plan. So you can just copy this thing over and you can go ahead and then use it to your heart's content. I also have some other notes down here. All the temperatures down here, this is my fast and dirty degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit conversion table. I've got gate information. This is all the stuff that you're going to need. I've also got departure and arrival information. One of the things to do is we're doing technically in a late departure right now, but if you're going to fly and cross the pond, understanding departure and arrival times and what your departure slot is going to be kind of important. So next thing for us to do is put in our departure, which is KPHX, KPHX, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Our destination is going to be KSLC, Salt Lake City, and that's good. Our alternate is KEVW, KEVW. That goes in alternate. We know that our runway for departure is going to be 08. So let's put in 08. And that looks pretty good. The only other things that you could do right here is you could go and put in a flight number if you want. SKW. Flight not 441. We are flying a real world, so that's 3134. SkyWest 3134. Is today's flight, and we're going to pop that in there, and all of that looks good, and we're going to execute that. Okay, things are starting to look up here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the power and the fuel to the APU, and we'll look down here and see that the door is closed. The door is open. Now we're going to go ahead and start up the old APU here. And while that's starting up, I'm going to go ahead and do page 2 on my flight plan. And after our SID going out, we're going to be at Golf Charlie November. That's our first waypoint, Golf Charlie November. And we'll put that in just as a direct too. After Golf Charlie November, our next waypoint is BCE, Bravo Charlie Echo, and pop that in too. And that's all we've got. No airways or anything, and just execute that. And so those are, our flight plan is basically in there. If you listen back, you can hear a little bit of noise developing. We've got APU is going. So APU is going. That's kind of nice to know. That must mean that we're probably getting a little bit more ventilation in the airplane too, which is a good thing because it is, after all, Phoenix. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my departure and arrival. We know we're going to use runway 8. Simbrief has got us going on the Quacky 1 departure. So let's see if we can find Quacky 1. There's the Quacky 1 departure. And our transition out will be GCN, Golf Charlie November. Click that. And we've got our runway selected. Let's go ahead and execute that. Back to the departure arrival index, we can go and put in our arrival. Right now, we think that we are going to be getting runway 16 right for the arrival. We're going to be doing the Queens 5 arrival too. Let's see if we find Queens 5. We do not seem to have the Queens 5 arrival. That must mean my database is a problem. So what do you do? What do you do at something like this? Well, okay, so we're going to be coming in right now via BCE. So let's go over to our charts just real fast. This is actually a real world thing that'll happen if you're on VATSIM and you get a departure. So one of the things is they'd say, well, what kind of a departure could you take instead? Or arrival. So we're going to come in via BCE. So there is Bryce Canyon, BCE. And this is going to take us and put us up to the north of the airport. So let's go back into our airports here. KSLC, Salt Lake City. Let's look in there and let's look at some of the other stars. So go down to stars. Okay, so let's see. Obviously, we can't do Queens. How about the Delta 5 arrival? We could do the Delta 5 arrival. What will Delta 5 do for us? So there is BCE Queens. And that takes us to camp so that we can go to runway 16 right. So you go in here and you just have a look here. 16 right. Look at the chart there. There's 16 right. We're going to go to the south. So that's a bit of a problem. Can't do that. So back to our star. We're here at Bryce. So Bryce doesn't do us an awful lot of good. Now, if we were over here, here is Bryce and Delta 5. Delta 5 works for us. How about let's switch over and do the Delta 5 arrival instead. Do we have Delta 5? Oh, look at that. Delta 5. Holy moly. At BCE. That looks pretty good too. That's looking all right. So after that, this is going to put us out at Rhodey or Rory for landing south. And then coming on in, there's Rory and Rough. Let's see if we've got a Rory or a Rough transition. If we don't, so Ogden, fans. Nope, we don't have that. So we're going to have to leave it as vectors. Okay, well, we've Sherlock Holmed all of that, and that's taken care of. Now let's go to legs. And so out after departure, we're going to go out on the Quacky departure. Just kind of look through here. There is a route discontinuity. See how it says BCE here and BCE there and a discontinuity in the middle? Take that BCE, put it in the scratch pad, put it on top of the other BCE and hit execute, and that problem is solved. Go to the next page. Okay, so vectors. All we're going to do is after vectors, let's put rough right in there and execute that. That removes the discontinuity, but it leaves vectors in between Rory and Rough. And I'm going to resist the urge to do dog jokes. And that takes us right into the airport and the runway. Hot dog, I think we got a flight plan. We've got a flight plan, and I think we can make this work. Looking up here, the the APU is started. So we've got the APU up and running right now. We can go over here to the aircraft and we can disconnect from ground power. Let's also go ahead and start closing up the doors to the airplane here, because we're almost ready to go and start doing our pushback.
The cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Sounds good. They're going to go and yap at us just a little bit, so let's turn this down just a bit. The next thing to do is go back to flight plan and performance initialization. Over here, we need to go in and put our cruising altitude, which is 38,000 feet. Thank you, SimBrief. So we're going to put 38,000 feet in and execute that. No, let's not. Look at all these numbers that aren't here. Guess what? You can fill those in over here on the Performance tab. See where it says Copy Perf Init Data to FMS? Click that button. While you're over here, go ahead and set your bugs for departure. That just save yourself some space, and now look at all of that great little information. Now hit Execute. VNAV setup, 18,000 feet. That is going to be the transition going out of Salt Lake City. Flight level 380 is our cruise. Flight level 180 is our transition going into beautiful downtown Salt Lake. All of that looks good. At this point, I'm just going to leave it in the progress page right now as we slowly get ready to do pushback types of things. And as a part of doing that, we're going to look up here and let's go ahead and turn on seatbelts. Seatbelts are looking pretty good. We're already disconnected from ground power. I'm going to open up the isolation valve here. I'm going to turn on the beacon because we're going to start getting ready to move the airplane. And I'm also going to turn on my remaining hydraulic systems because I tend to forget those things, and that's not a good thing to do. Okay, all this is looking good. Let's look down here. Are my parking brakes set? Oops, no. Let's do that. And while we're remembering to do that, we're going to do the stabilizer trim and mock trim. And now let's go, and all of this is good. Once again, we can remove the chocks. That takes care of ground power. All of our doors are closed. Guess what we get to do? It's pushback time. So go ahead and get toolbar pushback. Hit the pushback tab, start the pushback, and you will see a very big pushback truck coming right at us. If you are flying with friends or something like that, now is a very good time as the pushback truck connects. You want to just go in here and make sure that none of your friends are behind you or, you know, the competing airline and stuff like that. Make sure that everybody's clear behind you and look over and say, okay, we're just going to do a straight pushback, and we're going to push back straight beyond the line there so that when we see B3, we're going to stop. Okay, everything looks good there. Watch the pushback truck. See when it goes, it's going to jerk kind of. See how it kind of jerked there? That's sort of your cue that it's hooked up. So the beacon is on, so release the parking brake and hit the reverse button. And there we go. And we are pushing back. How about that? It's a very, very big pushback truck for such a small airplane. But you know what? The little thing that we got here, the toolbar pushback really, really does work great. And yeah, you can steer it a little bit with your rudder pedals. Or your rudder, so you can steer, or you could steer here with the control there. But this is all we're going to do, so we're going to hold it right here, and we're going to hit end pushback, and I'm going to hit the parking brake. And the truck's going to go away. We're going to clear this, and it is engine starting time. So we're going to turn on our fuel booster pumps. Look down here. Yep, isolation valve is still open. Everything else is good here. I'm going to start the right engine, so let's hit the starter button. As we hit the starter button, we're going to look down here and immediately look at the N2. As the N2 is going here, we're going to see that that's going up. Now, this is kind of an awkward little airplane to work with. So you kind of have to push this back here just a little and then look down here and see the very small little number right there. But it's an accurate airplane. It's awkward but accurate for flight sim. At 20, lift the red lever, move the throttle forward. When the lever comes down, you can move your throttle back. And all of that's looking good. While this engine is starting to go, we're going to go ahead and start getting ready for our departure. And again, we're taking off on runway 08 here at Phoenix Sky Harbor. The departure heading is 078 degrees. This is another one of those things that's kind of hard to see. So we'll look over here. There's our heading bug, and you're going to see a small number there, 078. And it's really hard to see. There's 030.
of the aircraft in case of an emergency.
It's kind of hard to
During
see,
an
so
emergency, please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened and your seats in the upright
that's
position.
083.
In case of a drop in cabin pressure, breathing masks will drop from the ceiling and should be placed over your head.
078. Okay, we don't want to listen to that, so I'm going to just turn that level down just a little. Next thing I'm going to do is look over here, and I'm going to turn up the altitude knob, and I'm just going to crank this thing all the way up to 38,000 feet. And again, it's a very small number. It's right there, so sometimes you'll have to zoom in and look. It's 38.8, so click it 8 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 38,000 feet. Okay, we're good to go there, and guess what? We have an engine started. If we wanted to be good pilots, we should have monitored things like oil pressure and vibration and make sure that the engine's starting, but we know it's going to start good, so we're going to start engine number 1, or the left engine. And just like before, keep a close eye on the N2 here. As the N2 slowly climbs, move your camera back just a little bit. Tilt down so you can see the red lever. There's the red lever. 17, 18, 19, and 20. Lift the red lever, move the throttle up a bit, and then move it back when the red lever goes down. Now the next thing for us to do is put in our landing altitude, and that's where we're going to get that off of the charts. And our landing altitude is 4,231 feet at Salt Lake. Holy moly. This is kind of awkward too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little pointer over the right display here. I'm going to hold down the right alternate button. See how it changed to a plus? And it will pop it out. Look at that. It just popped that out. We're going to look up here and see this knob. We're going to dial this all the way up to 4,231 feet for our landing altitude. And you just have to sit here and crank, crank, crank. You could also move the cursor over there and just hold it down, but I think it goes actually a little bit faster if you crank it. So we're just going to hold that down there. 4, 2, 3, 1. 4, 1, 4, 2, 2, 4, 4. How about 4240? And now that's nicely set. So they have to adjust the cabin pressure up there while looking at the number down there. It's easy to do in a real cockpit while you're just, turning the knob up there, but we can't do that here in the flight simulator. Okay, everything looks good to go here. We have 2 good engines that have started up. So let's go ahead and turn on the air conditioning packs. We'll put air conditioning also in the aft cargo area too. At this point, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on my right and left windshield heaters, and we're also going to turn on the probe heat. We are done with the APU, so we can punch those off. Isolation valve closed. X-Flow auto override is going to go off for takeoff, or it's going to go into manual mode. And everything else is looking good here. We've got all of this up. We forgot to set the altimeter. So the altimeter setting here, once again, is 29.83. So 29, the barrow is over here, and dial that down to 83. We want to be real pilots too, so we're going to be 2983. We're going to set that up in the backup as well. 2983. Everything is looking good to go there. I think it's time for us to taxi. If we were on VATSIM, we'd of course be requesting taxi, but we're not. So, another safety tip. Do you have one of those gaming chairs at home that tilts back? When you go and put your feet on the rudder pedals, just reach down and make sure that your chair doesn't tilt back. Otherwise, you'll push on a rudder pedal, tip over, and look really bad. Last thing I'm going to do is go down. I'm going to turn on the yaw dampers. And we're also, if we were on VATSIM, we would be turning this on. We'll be squawking mode Charlie. So we're going to go ahead and get our squawk set up too. Okay. Looking up here, we're going to turn on recognition taxi lights. I also turn on the nose light, so that looks good. Looking down here, parking brakes are going off. My feet are on the toe brakes. Look over there, look over there. Now this airplane does require a little bit of thrust to get going, so release the toe brakes. Right up. Nope. Guess what else we forgot? There's a little button down here. It's called nose wheel steering. Let's arm the nose wheel steering. That helps too. Now let's look over here, release the toe brakes, add throttles, get the airplane rolling, As soon as you're rolling, go hard right so that we can do a very, very tight turn and not run over the food truck there. And out we go. If you want, now's a good time also to look outside your airplane. Always cool to see your airplane like this. And look around over here. There's our little yellow line. Gently release the pressure on the nose wheel. Also pull back your throttle like this, because once you get going, you don't need to be going all that fast. Okay, we are coming out here. Let's see, we're going to come out of the Bravo concourse. We're going to look to get on the Charlie. And Charlie's going to take us down to our runway. Everything else in the cockpit is pretty much set right now. This is going to be one of those times that you're going to want to do a little bit of multitasking and stuff. Now is not the best time to do multitasking. We have plenty of time to get the airplane ready for takeoff, and so as you're going and doing that taxi thing, especially if you're going to be in a big VATSIM event, this is what you need to be ready for. Also, getting your charts ready in advance is a good thing to do too. So one of the things I did before coming out to the airplane is I got all my charts lined up. Right now I've been using the NDP charts from AeroSoft because that's the Lido style of charts. That is something that you will pay for. So it's going to be something that's subscription, but if you fly more than a few times a week, you're going to probably want either NDP or Navigraph. I do use Navigraph for my data, so they're kind of getting me both ways right now. But the thing is the Lido style charts are really pretty cool, and it's something I wanted to learn. You can get away with just one though. I haven't quite figured out how to do all of the navigation data with the NDP AeroSoft data. Okay, so we are clearing the basic terminal area right now. That is Terminal 2 over there as we head on down to our runway. Everything else is looking good. At some point in time, we'll probably look up here and flash the no smoking light. That rings the bell. Lets cabin crew know that we're serious about doing that flying thing. If you are on a nice straightaway, there's no airplanes in front of you. You can do a few more preps here. So let's go ahead and we're going to go and turn the thrust reversers on. We'll go over here and do 2 clicks of the flaps to get flaps ready to go. And then we can also look over here on performance, and our trim for takeoff is going to be 7.2. So finger on the button for that. There's 7.5, 4, 7. It's pretty sensitive. 7.2. Trim set for takeoff. And then you can look back down here. Takeoff configuration is now okay. We're ready to go. If we were on VATSIM or flying with friends, chances are at an airport like Phoenix, you might have to wait your turn. Thing about being on VATSIM and Microsoft Flight Simulator is that's like being on 2 different networks. So at some point in time, we're going to probably have to start learning how to turn off the Microsoft network, and that way we just have the VATSIM network airplanes showing up. Otherwise, you'll be taxiing through other airplanes or waiting behind airplanes that the VATSIM controller is going to say, excuse me, what are you doing here? Why are you waiting? Get going. So those are going to be 2 conflicting networks there. There is a way to do that. I just haven't learned how to do it quite yet, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Doing a pretty good taxi right now. Ground speed is 29 knots. So we're kind of doing what I would call a V1 taxi. Let's do some gentle braking here. There's our speeds going down to 20 knots. Slow it down just a little bit more here. Just like all jetliners, you're going to want to make your turn. Clear for takeoff. How about that? Cabin announcements, by the way, they come with this airplane. So you don't need to get a special module to have the cabin announcements. Nice to look over there and see the windsock is blowing in our general direction. Okay, I'm going to slide this over here just a little bit, and I'm going to move my map in 1 click. Speed down just a little bit more. Now we're going about 17 knots. You want to be about 10 knots for a 90-degree turn like this. And then gentle on your rudder pedals to make the turn. Yeah, we're at 9 knots now, so this is going to be a very nice turn. Okay, if you're on VATSIM, of course, controllers are going to tell you when you can line up and wait or take off. Because we're not on VATSIM, I'm going to look over there. I'm going to look and see if there's anybody on approach. Nobody's on approach. Anybody on approach over at that end? Nope, we're good to go. So here we go on out. I'm going to go ahead, and since we're on an active runway, I'm going to be an attention freak and turn on my strobes because I want people to see this airplane. So, there's an airplane on the runway here. Just a little bit of a touch on my throttle here is about all I need. Get ourselves nicely lined up. Last thing you do, look up here, landing lights. That lets the tower know that this airplane's serious about doing that flying thing. Hands on the stick, rudder pedals, throttle. Throttle's up just a little bit, just like in an Airbus or any other airplane. You want to spool the engines up a little bit first, make sure that they're stabilized. 2 clicks gives us toga setting for takeoff. And we are up and away. The bugs, remember, we preset the bugs for takeoff. So we're going to just kind of look down and see there's 80. And there's 100 knots. Hard to see, but you can see our V1 and rotate indicator on the speed tape. There's V1 and rotate, up and away. This airplane does not auto trim like the Airbus. Positive rate of climb, landing gear going up. So long, Phoenix. And as Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. said in the movie Airport 75, once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety. Okay, we're good to go there. Nice little climb. Let's look down here. Are the flight directors? Somebody forgot to hit the FD button. How about that? Flight directors, obviously a good thing to do. Okay, it doesn't have the climb very well set in there. I think I screwed something up there. Let's hit the nav button. Hit the speed button. Hit AP. Let's kick our speed up just a little bit. I'm going to kick my speed up to 210. There's 199. There's 200. Why 210? I was counting, so there's 210. See what we got coming up here at Sparky here? That's a 90-degree turn. You don't want to be, going right at something like that at warp factor 10. So if we're going super fast and we got a 90-degree turn, it's going to swing really, really wide. So we don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to keep my speed down just a little bit. And unless, of course, we're on VATSIM and ATC says, speed up or something. And there's a nice departure there. I still have some flaps out. Because until there's our turn. Now we're going to make the turn at Sparky. And out we go over there. See, Dr. Spirit and the elf, the ex-elf are flying around here in Phoenix today. There's L. Barton. Some of the names here in Microsoft Flight Simulator are priceless. Okay, so we're coming around here. At this point in time, I'm going to put flaps up 1 notch. And let's kick our speed up to 240. Speed's coming up. Flaps up again. We're at 226. Keep the speed going. There's 233. Even at 210 knots, you see how wide we swung off of our flight path? And the airplane is going to try and put us right on the flight path there. So in something like this, so you don't do S-turns all over it, as you approach that, a good thing to do is go to direct intersection, put goalie in there, and hit execute. And that's going to go ahead and draw this really, really crazy line over here. But one of the things it will do is it will minimize your little S-turns that you're going to do on a departure like that. Passing 11,000 feet, landing lights are going to go off. We're going to ring the bell, let the flight attendants know that we are at 10,000 feet. They're going to do the 10,000 foot announcement, reminding passengers that they do need to stay in their seats while the seatbelt sign is on. And while you're in your seats, look in the seat pocket in front of you for a really great deal on a very expensive credit card. Okay, sarcasm aside, we should also be increasing our speed up to 280 knots. So we'll look down there, it's 269, there is 270, and then count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That gave us 10 to 280, and that's really the way it is that I go ahead and set speeds, because these numbers are so small down here that it's really kind of hard to see them. Another thing you probably noticed is our heading over.
We are now serving sandwiches.
There you go, sandwich time, 15,000 feet. That is something you get here in the Airbus, in the CRJ. It's always nice to have sandwich time. Before we got the sandwich announcement, I was going to point out, you see our heading indicator here? That's pointed off over here. The real pilots are going to go, and they are going to keep their heading bug aligned with their course, even though LNAV has got it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on the heading knob and push the center button, and that takes and puts that straight up there. And that's a fast way to do that. We're on a 20-mile range. Let's go ahead and slide this over just a little bit, and we're going to go to 40. And we are direct to Quacky now. There is our top of climb. 16,000 feet. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and do another one of those. Right-click on the heading knob and push it. And now our heading bug is set directly straight up. Perfect for us. Looking up here, let's see if I've gone and done anything wrong. Nav, beacon, strobes, all of those look good. Logo lights off. It's daytime. All the landing lights on the airplane are off. Oops, we're done with takeoff, so we can turn off the X-Flow or Cross-Flow Auto Override. That's good too. Air conditioning is off, is on, I mean. We have got the probe heat is on, the window heaters are on, seat belts are on, all that looks good. Here's something I forgot to do. Check your ECAM, that'll help you out too. We could look down here and we could turn off the thrust reversers. We don't need those, we're not going back to the runway. Look back at the ECAM and, well, look at that. Uh-oh, look at this, flashing. This is just really nice, letting us know we've reached our transition. So just like on the heading speed, right-click on the barrel button, push the center, and that's going to reset to 2992. We're also going to go over here, and you have to dial this manually to standard, which is 1013 hectopascals or 2992 inches of mercury. And we're climbing past 22,000 feet. Another thing to look over here and check is this little guy here. So look at your cabin altitude. It says 4,300 feet. If it is climbing along with your airplane, like it says 22,000, it's a good indicator that you've forgotten to do your packs and you're killing your passengers, and we don't want to do that. Something about lawyers and stuff, I'm not sure, and having to call that special phone number when you land. Okay, this looks good. 23,000 feet, our airplane is climbing nicely. Look outside the airplane. And the airplane's looking pretty good. If you would like to do wing views, you can do that up here. Click the camera. And sometimes the camera is going to sit for a second. Go to Showcase. And go to Fixed Camera and External 1, External 2, External 3. Keep looking down. There's External number 4. External, there's a wing view, 5 and 6. So External 5 and External 6 is your wing view. Is your wing view cameras. So that's kind of nice for you on that. The cabin on this airplane is modeled actually, and if you go over here and instead of external cameras, you do free camera and go to the drone, dial your drone back to about 2.2% of movement, and then go ahead and get your Xbox controller and move towards your airplane. Get down here like this, A little bit closer. And look at that. Now, the airplane is going to go up and down, and your drone might not be. So one of the things to do is you're going to float around like this. And I think that this is the best thing that you can do as far as your camera. You can come up here and see if there's any more sandwiches left over, see if there's any coffee left. But that's kind of the way the drone camera is going to work, and that's how you can go in and look inside your airplane. Let's hear it for the drone cam. Another thing you could do is you see I left the camera tab up here, so you can minimize that. That way you can get back to your cockpit really fast. That's a good way to go. Past 28,000 feet, we're relatively stable right now. So this is the point in time where I'm going to take mercy on that one passenger that back at the airport went to Starbucks and got the venti instead of the grande and has to go to the bathroom. Seatbelts off. I usually do that around 25,000 feet. On most of my U.S. domestic flights, I've found that's kind of seems to be the magic altitude. I don't know for sure. I just redid my heading again, and we're looking good there, passing 29,000 feet. Looking down at my progress page, we are 445 miles out of Salt Lake City. We have an hour and 6 minutes worth of flying time. Everything looks good up there. Everything looks good up there. Airplane is flying good. The CRJ is a really fabulous little airplane. 66 to 78 passengers for the Model 700. Our range is about 1,378 miles. The altitude ceiling, 41,000 feet. My reading around, I guess we could get all the way up to Mach 0.825 if we wanted to. They've delivered 330 of these, but they don't make them anymore, I guess. I guess they've stopped the production run on these. So probably a really fabulous little airplane for commuter airlines. SkyWest operates all sorts of CRJs all over the place. I will tell you that as a passenger who is over 6 feet tall, it is a little cramped back there, just saying. Nothing funky to do down here. If we were on VATSIM, we would also have the radio panel up here so that we could change frequencies. We would also be using this to change the transponder. Another thing to do is look here and see how it says auto and manual here for nav 1. This is going to automatically dial in our ILS for us. Very nice. It's always good to check that though. Always good to check that though. I will generally leave this one over on the progress page. That shows which checkpoint is next on our flight plan and tells us how far away we are from our destination. Okay, one thing that I've forgotten to do is after takeoff, just like in the Airbus gives you the little lever climb thing, you know, to go to thrust climb. This one doesn't. So I've left us in climb mode, bad pilot. So we're going to go and move our throttles down and put it in climb mode. It's really kind of surprising how much you become dependent on little things like that. You know, the flashing baro reading on this airplane in the Airbus to remind you transition altitude, set your altimeter, and then over in the Airbus the thrust climb, you know, lever climb and thrust climb. Things like that really, you know, kind of make it easy to remember stuff. And the thing is, you know, the real world pilots, there's two people sitting up here. So that's why they don't forget stuff. They're there to check each other, and they share the workload. You're doing it all by yourself, and if we were on VATSIM, it would be even crazier. The cockpit itself is really nicely done. It does have a HUD. I generally find that the HUD gets in the way, especially if I'm in a group flight, you know, with friends over on Twitch. The HUD just gets in the way, and I miss stuff. Okay, everything looks good there. Coming up on Carl, 34,000 feet, climbing at about 1,000 feet per minute. Nothing much to do over here. Yep, all of our circuit breakers are not broken. There's our door. See, there's the, I think the closet is over there. I think we have to look over this way if we want to look at the closet. Oh, did you see how it reset as you tried to turn it around? That was weird. So as you're looking around here, so if you're going to try and move around to look at the closet over there. See, I think that the jump seat, I think you can, the jump seat is this thing right here, and you sit kind of in front of the door. So I do think that they have a jump seat like that. But I suspect it's rather cramped. And everything looks good there. Climbing up to flight level 380 today. If you are going to be flying this airplane on VATSIM, so if we were on VATSIM right now, this does have TCAS, so you will see other VATSIM traffic show up in on your navigation display. Now, I was flying over around Paris in this airplane the other day with friends on both Microsoft Flight Simulator and VATSIM. An airplane came relatively close to me in VATSIM, and it did not go, you know, traffic, traffic, traffic. The light, it flashed at me, it flashed at me, but it didn't yell at me. So I did notice that one. And this looks pretty good. The next thing that I might be doing at this point as our climb comes out is I might be switching over here, and I might be going KSLC. This is, by the way, Sim Toolkit Pro. Sim Toolkit Pro is free. If you are not using something like this in your cockpit, you're working too hard. And I've just gone and copied the METAR off and put that over here in that little text file, the flight notes. Again, you'll find it over on the Discord channel, but it's just a simple text file that I will type in and put all the information in there. So winds in Salt Lake, 130 at 7, 10 miles visibility, a few clouds, 11,000 feet, a few more at 15,000. It's 24 degrees. That is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And our altimeter setting in Salt Lake is 2992. So good idea to keep in the back of your mind what it is that you are going to be doing. Did you also hear the altitude horn going off? So one of the things is as we approach our final cruising altitude here, you got to keep an eye on your speed. This airplane does not have auto throttles. So you've got to be ready to watch your speed on the whole flight. In fact, the real world Airbus CRJ pilots, so the pilot flying, even if the autopilot has got it, I hear they basically keep their hand on the throttles here. And their job is to watch the speed and monitor the speed full time. And we're coming up on our final cruise, 38,000 feet. At this point, we're going to watch our airspeed tape here. As we get to that altitude cap, we're going to take it out of climb mode, and that's manual mode. And if you look down here, you can see it says there's climb mode. So we're going to go ahead and pull this back just a little bit out of climb mode. We'll do that now. So move it back just a bit. You'll see it click. And then they can just kind of slide back and forth. So we're at 85%. Let's see what it does with our speed as we're settling into our final cruising altitude. You'll get a little yellow indicator up and down, letting you know if your speed's going up or down. But right now, we're relatively close. If you really want to, you could, if your throttles are adjusted well, you could go ahead and, get those last few little bits of speed there. But we're at Mach 0.79. That's our that was our planned speed for this flight, so that's good. We've got a 47 knot crosswind, so you can see we're a little bit crabby into the wind there. And then the next thing we'll do is I'll just go ahead and look over here, and I'm going to go ahead and do the format knob and make it 80. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see. So let's go ahead and do it the other way. So I just wanted to look and see. Sometimes there's going to be things one on top of the other, and it's going to be hard to see the top of descent. So there's 80 miles. I suspect my top of descent is right about here. We could check that. Let's go down here. And let's go ahead and go over here again. Let's click the map out one more notch. 160. I think top of descent is here at Bryce. I was just looking over to see. It might not be. Maybe it's not at Bryce. We'll keep a close eye. I think that, you know, this big 160 miles is way too much. There's 310. Ah, there's top of descent. So there's Bryce. There's TOD. There's our top of descent. So we have over 160 miles to top of descent. So let's go ahead and dial this back to something a little more reasonable. I like to keep it about 40 or 80, depending upon whether or not there's traffic in the area. One of the things that we could probably do right now, and it's a little early, and ATC may change, but we can look at the ILS, and we can look down here, and we could see what a Category 1 set of minimums is. 4,430 feet are minimums. Guess what? That is a lot of cranking on this airplane. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to slide this over here, and you see where it says DA and MDA over here? We're going to switch it to MDA. We're going to push the button, and now we're going to just crank. Just crank the number, and we have to crank it all the way to 4,430 feet. That is a lot of cranking to get that MDA set. So now we're at 1,100. It just takes a lot. That's one of the things about this airplane. So now we are almost, and I'm using the thumb wheel. Maybe there's a better option. I don't know. Maybe if I had, you know, some of the SATEX cockpit controls or something, that would be something I could do. But when you're going to a higher altitude airport, setting MDAs and setting landing altitudes, that's a lot of just sit there and crank that little thumb wheel on your mouse. There's 4,000. We need 430 feet. 4,300, 4,430. And the MDA is now set. So at least our MDA is set. We could push the button if we want to get it off of there. Push it again, you see it's still in there. So that's kind of nice. We've got the baro set to 2992. All of this is looking good over here. So all of that looks fine. I think our airplane is in pretty good shape. If you look here, you can see my speed at about 85%, 84, 85% on my throttles is relatively good. So I think that we are in nice cruise mode. We are 348 nautical miles south of Salt Lake City. That means we got a good 53 minutes of flying time. So even after our late departure because of scenery issues and other things like that at Salt Lake, we're making really good time. So what I think is the best thing for me to do is I'm going to do nothing but sit here and watch the airplane, kind of look outside, enjoy the really, really great scenery. You know, okay, this is the deserts northwest of, north of Phoenix and south of Utah, but actually the scenery here is really pretty good. So I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and just chill on. I'm going to stop the video and we'll do a little magic edit and come right back and do that about 100 miles or so, or 50 miles from top of descent. Hello and welcome back. It is about, I'd say, half an hour later. We are back in the cockpit. We are still flying. We haven't crashed yet. But we are definitely a little bit closer. So, and as you can see up here, top of descent is now 80 miles away. So we are doing really good. Hello, there you go. So we're doing really good on this flight. Let's go ahead and do another check of the weather. So let's just go over here and hit the METAR button here on Sim Toolkit Pro. There is the latest weather, and I'm going to just copy that off again and pop this in over in my flight notes. So that's good to go too. Now, here's our descent. So we're coming in here at Bryce Canyon. Okay, we got a couple of altitudes to watch here. There is the Delta arrival. There's Jammin, Draper, Spec. All right. Let's see, here we are. There's Rory right there. And it's showing, okay, 11,000 feet. We got some altitudes here to watch out for. But we want to be at 11,000 feet somewhere after Magni, I guess. So, and that's 11,000 feet when we are basically parallel of the airport coming in. So 11,000 feet is going to be my initial descent altitude. And in fact, very probably, if we were on VATSIM right now, we would probably be getting cleared to descend at pilot's discretion on the Delta 5 arrival. Okay, so we can go and put in 11,000 feet here on the altitude. And again, this is a hard number to see, so you could use the right Alt button and pop that little window out, and then look over here and dial that down. It's the upper right-hand number to 11,000 feet. And there's 11,000 feet. We're good to go there. So top of descent is about 55, 60 miles out. We're slowly making good progress here. Nothing really to do over here on the electronic flight bag at the moment, except eventually we're going to hit the landing bugs. So we've got this little thing over here that's computing our speeds for us. So we'll set the bugs a little bit later on. We don't need to do that now. I have not had to adjust the throttles at all. We are just cruising along at Mach 0.79. That's been nice too. Top of descent now is coming up on about 50 miles. We are 213 miles south of Salt Lake City, about a half an hour's left worth of flying time. Generally that estimate, add about another 10 minutes or so for twists and turns and stuff like that on the approach. We've already taken a look at this, but somewhere between Quippa and Rory, when we get north of the airport, we could start our turn. So over here on the ILS chart, actually, no, that was the SID chart. There's the ILS chart. So as we come in over here, somewhere around here, like near Beehive or Afimi, I guess. So at Beehive, we want to go down to 7,500 feet. So there's another descent altitude. We're just going to remember that, though, for right now. I'll generally, especially in a place like Salt Lake City, where we got a whole lot of mountains and stuff, I'm going to go and stick with the final altitude here on the star. Now, another thing you could do is we took off from Phoenix. We're not going back to Phoenix right now. So to eliminate some confusion, I'm going to just go ahead and take all the Phoenix stuff out of the little knee board here in NDP charts. So there's my star, there's my approach. Let's go ahead, and here's our runway. We are coming in on 16 right. So 16 right is what we've got coming in here. Try and catch the high speed, probably right here at Alpha 5, so we don't need to stomp on the brakes so much. And then coming in over here, this is where things will get a little crazy scenery-wise too, because I think they're doing a whole lot of refurbishment at Salt Lake. So the Charlie, Fox, and Golf concourses are gone, are being worked on, and Concourse B is where we're going. And in fact, the real world flight is going to B13. So B13's right here. The thing is I haven't found a Salt Lake scenery update or anything like that that shows this in here. So that's another thing to be ready for. If you are on a VATSIM event, that would just be a thing. They're fairly cool about scenery errors. I did get an update here on Sim Toolkit Pro, and it's not putting my flight plan like it used to here, but it is tracking our flight going up here. So that's the good news for that. Again, Sim Toolkit Pro does really make life awfully easy for us simulator pilots. Looking down here, our top of descent is now 40 miles out. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this map around over here just a little bit. And see where it says 80 over there? I'm going to go ahead and dial the format in and make it 40. It's just so much easier to keep track of that top of descent. So that's looking pretty good too. Speed's good. We have had a little bit of chop here, flying real world weather here. So there are a couple of bumps that we've had, but not too serious. So I've got the seatbelt sign still off right now. A check of the fuel shows our total fuel aboard is 2.2 tons of fuel. SimBrief has said that to be legal, we need to have 1.6. So that number needs to be 1.6 or greater for us to have not invaded our fuel as far as diversion fuel, holding fuel, go around fuel. So that'll be a number to keep track of. Again, nothing else that I can really do up here. No buttons I get to play with there. No buttons I get to play with there. All we can do is say, oh, wow, look at that. It's about 25 miles to top of descent. We're going to get to push a button. The old joke that I heard a long time ago, there is a series of videos that you can go and watch on YouTube. It's called 21st Century Jet, Building the 777. And I think like part 4, the chief test pilot of Boeing during the 777 program, the initial 777 program, was a pilot named John Cashman. And this was at a time when fly-by-wire was just coming out and glass cockpits were like super high-tech and stuff. And John Cashman, in the interview, this was put together by the PBS stations out there. It really was an interesting series to watch, you know, from start to delivery of building the 777. But in the interview, John Cashman says the joke at the time was, all you really need to fly these modern jetliners is a pilot and a dog. The pilot is up front to feed the dog, and the dog is up front to bite the pilot if the pilot tries to touch any of the buttons. Okay, John Cashman did a better job of telling it than I did, but still. It's called 21st Century Jet. If you get a chance to if you're looking for something interesting to watch on YouTube Sunday, it's there. And I think you'd find it kind of interesting, maybe. I enjoy it every now and then. I don't think that it ever came out on digital. I think that it always came out on VHS, and somebody ripped the VHS. Okay, I've dialed my map in one more time. Top of descent about 10 miles out. So everything's looking good to go there. What we're going to do is we'll hit the speed button and then reduce our throttles just a little bit when we get to top of descent. So speed and throttles, and that should start our descent. And we're going to look for two things. You'll see a little snowflake, an asterisk going to appear here. They call that the snowflake, and you want to keep the snowflake centered right there in the middle. You'll also see a blue dot here for our descent. Those are two indicators as to whether or not you are on your proper descent on this airplane. I'll leave seatbelts off until we get to around 25,000 feet, or if we get to get into an area of turbulence or something like that. And again, I just use 25,000 feet because over the years of being an airline passenger, I just seem to notice that that's about when they seem to do it. I'm sure that each airline has their own SOP, standard operating procedure, about when they do those things. And as is probably obvious, I've spent most of my time being a passenger on United. In fact, that's as a child, I remember my very first flight as a child was on a United Airlines DC-8. Okay, there we go. There is our top of descent. I'm going to hit the speed button. There is speed. I'm going to roll my throttles back just a little bit here, not much, and then look down there. See the now there is the snowflake and the little blue dot. And so what we're going to try and do is see what the snowflake does. I am at this point in my level of competence or incompetence at an airplane like this. If I can keep my snowflake between the two little dots here, not necessarily on the center, that's going to be good enough for me. So we're at 79. I'm going to roll my throttle back a little more and see if I can't keep that centered up there. Now is a very good time for you to take care of your coffee. And now that we've hit top of descent, what I'll do is instead of 20 miles, we're going to go over here and I'm going to increase that to 40 miles on the navigation display map. And the snowflake is in relatively good position. Nothing really to do down here. Nothing really to do over there. So we're just on our descent. Now, we've got a couple of airplanes here. And you can see there's Baron and Fire Channel, I think, over there. One of the things that you could do is you could go over to a thing called FlightAware. So if you want to see what's going on in the real world, KSLC, Salt Lake City International Airport. Let's see what Salt Lake is doing, the real Salt Lake at the moment. And if you take a look, you can see that Salt Lake is taking off and landing to the south, just like we are. So if you're not on VATSIM, you're just flying around here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, one way to be able to tell is look at something like FlightAware or Flight Radar 24, and it'll tell you what's happening in the real world. And for me, what's happening in the real world is a pretty good thing to use. So that's what I will use for coming in. I'm going to regularly check back and have a look at our descent speed, make sure my snowflake is as close to the center as I can reasonably get it. We are making a bit of a turn here, and we're passing 32,000 feet. So not bad there. Again, no real buttons that I can go and push up there, so we'll just leave those there. We're currently on our next course, so let's go ahead and be good pilots, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the resetter the heading bug as we make our turn. Okay, we could probably roll the throttle back just a little more. There's 77%. I'm going to roll it back to about, how about 76%? My throttles really probably need to be recalibrated. I haven't done it in quite a while. So, but I do try to keep my throttles relatively close. You know, my N1s on the throttles, which means I have to move them back and forth. Okay, it's got an airspeed now for the descent of 290. So at this point in time, I will also start reducing a couple of speeds on the speed bug there. Okay, we got a little bit high, so we need to pull the throttles back even more. Keep the snowflakes set up. We got a altitude constraint. 17,000 feet. I think that's below 17,000 feet. Reset the heading bug, so we're going to stay busy here. So, still a little bit high on the descent. Pull the throttles back even more. I generally like to do my descents at about 280 knots, so I'm going to pull my throttles back even closer to idle. And I'm going to get a little bit low. See how the snowflake's going up there? Now let's go, and I'm going to slowly click the speed down 10 knots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. And so that's going to kind of keep me on my descent path there as it slowly reduces my speed. Now I might have to pull the throttles back a little bit more so that we can slowly start reducing our speed as we get closer to Salt Lake City. Let's see, a popular live streamer, John Fly, lives around here, so watch out for stray golf balls as you are flying around Salt Lake. Okay, we're getting a little bit low here, so we're kind of low on this one, but our speed isn't coming down. So to make our speed come down a little bit, let's go and just do a couple of clicks on the old speed brakes there. See if the speed brakes help get us down to 280 knots. Well, not really. Now, it could be it's also behaving this way because it sees some altitude constraints coming up. And maybe it's trying to be a good airplane and says, hey, dumb pilot. Let's go ahead and click that to medium and see if that gets our speed to 280. If it goes below 17,000 feet there on the approach, then I'm a bad pilot and I should be nicer to my airplane. It's got about 10 miles. I think because it's got the little altitude arc there, it's going to try and put me out there at 17,000. Let's see if it stops. But my speed is not doing very good here. I definitely wanted to slow down and I'm not. Oh, this is a really great example of how to fly the airplane. So we're going to know. I think it's going to try and hit the constraints. I think this airplane's pretty smart about that. Again, smarter than the pilot. Boy, the ground's starting to come up. And there's mountains. We're actually get to do a little bit of valley flying. Okay, coming up on 18,000 feet. Reminder, our altimeter is set to 2992, as I recall. So let's just go over here and right click on the barrel button and it's 2992. KSLC. Can always just do another one of these. Yep, 2992. We're good to go there. So coming up on, what do we do? No, the airplane did not stop us at maybe it's below 17,000. Let me look and see. How about if I actually look at my chart? I think maybe that's below 17,000. So at Jammin, we were to expect 17,000 at Jammin. There are some hills around here, but 11,000 feet will keep us above them. It's descending us way too fast. I'm going to put my speed brakes away. And we're going to stop descending so quick. Oh, wait a minute. No, look at that. It's trying to stop me. Look at me. I am a bad pilot. Did you see over here the descent? 17,000. So it's angry at me here. It did try to do that. See, the descent is 0. And we're low on the... Yeah, the airplane did. So very smart airplane. Clearly knows more than the captain here. So add just enough power to hold our altitude here at 280 knots. There we go. Holding the altitude, holding 280 knots, and let's see if it's going to want us to descend again soon. We're going to want to be at 14,000 feet at Draper. Yep, that's right too. So we're not going to start a descent until after Draper. Airplane is smarter than the captain. Speed's a little bit fast, so I'm going to go ahead and just inch my throttle back a little bit here. Want to hold 280 here. And one of the other things that we could do is we're approaching 10,000 feet. Were there any speed restrictions on this approach? Nope, don't see any speed restrictions here. So basically, our choice is speed. So we could continue this and then do the slowdown after we pass Quippa. There's Quippa right there. And then we would go down to 7,500 feet, so we got that too. And here's some mountains ahead of us. There is the Salt Lake Valley. So this will keep us above the mountains. That's a nice thing. Okay, we're going down a little bit. We don't want to go down anymore. We want to be above 14,000 feet, so we'll add just a little touch of power here. So we don't want to go down any further. We've already broken 2 altitudes on this one. But you know, one of the things is here in Flight Simulator Land, this is the place to learn these things. So, okay, we saw that we busted those altitudes. Next time we're going to know better. Oops, below 25,000 feet. Let's turn seatbelts on. Can't have the passengers just running around the cabin eating sandwiches all day. Okay, our speed's kind of picked up just a little bit, and I know why the speed's picked up a bit. The airplane wants us to climb to 14,000 feet at Draper. It's trying to make me climb. Again, the airplane is saying, I'm smarter than you. So after Draper, in 1.8 miles, we should start down to 13,000 feet. So we'll keep a close eye here, and I'll bet after Draper, in 1 mile, we're going to start to go down again. Oh, look at that. It wants to go down already. Nope, nope, nope. That was just a bump in the air. Now wants us to go down. Reduce our throttles. It's actually climbing to 14. Not too much. They are a little bit on the sensitive side. Okay, we're going to stop at 13,000 here. Okay, we're relatively close. I think we're getting some bumps in the air here. Oh yes, we have a little bit of turbulence, so it's not an exact science here. A little bit of power there, not too much. Salt Lake is definitely starting to show up. One of the neat things about Microsoft Flight Simulator is if it were wintertime, there'd be snow all over these mountains. That is something that's really pretty awesome about Microsoft Flight Simulator. And we are definitely getting bumps in the air here. So good thing we got seatbelts on. Coming up on 10,000 feet, but not quite. So we don't need landing lights yet. Okay, so there's 13,000 feet. We need to add a little bit of power here. Let's also go ahead and I'm going to drop my dial the map in another click. 20 miles. That looks good. So there's our 13,000 feet. We're going to hold 13,000 feet here for just a second. And then we're going to go back down again. And we're going to go back down to 12,000 feet. Reduce the throttle just a little bit. And then we're going to hold 11,000 feet. Good airplane. There's the airport. There's the runway. Fire channel is on approach right now, it looks like. Or actually, it looks like fire channel's on the ground at Salt Lake. Another good thing to do is always check in with your radio. Make sure that the nav 1 is set to auto. And eventually, we're going to want to make sure that the ILS is set to 111.9. Oh, look at that. It already set it. Sometimes these things don't happen, and you're going to be coming in on approach, and you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, where's my ILS? So that's the first thing to do is make sure that it got the memo. Okay, we're going to continue to go down to 11,000 feet, and at 11,000 feet, we're going to stay there for a while. We go outside the airplane and have a quick look. There's the airport over there. There's downtown Salt Lake. E.P. Simmons is over there at 6,500 feet. Yep, fire channel's on the ground right now. So we're safe to go there. We'll add a little bit more. Pull the throttle back just a little bit more and get ourselves set up at that 11,000 feet. Nothing really else to do here. No auto brakes to set on this one. Oh, looks like my heading's off a bit. Let's go ahead and right-click on the heading knob and get that heading synced up. Looks like we're going to make 11,000 feet too at Magny. Add just a little more throttle, so we're going down a tad bit fast for the airplane. But that's okay. It's just a constant adjustment up and down on your throttles on this one. And the thing is if you're used to something like the Airbus A320 or any of the Boeings, you know, you've got an auto throttle here. No auto throttle on this airplane. Okay, coming up on 11,000 feet. As we get to 11,000 feet, we are also a beam of the airport. There's the airport, just like we wanted to be. Holy moly. Never supposed to be where we wanted to be, right? Okay, here we come up on 11,000 feet. I'm going to go ahead and speed down to... I would like my speed down to about 210. That way I can start rolling out a little bit of flaps. Holding 11,000 feet, so that's looking pretty good. This would be a time where they would also maybe tell us that we could possibly go down to 7,500. So once my speed gets just a little bit lower here, we'll go ahead and take care of that. If you're not slowing down fast enough, which we don't appear to be, we'll get a little help from the speed brake. So there's a little bit of speed brake. There goes our speed down. And you can see the speed brakes are just barely up there, but that's all it really takes on this small airplane. Speed down to 240. So we're below 250. Let's go ahead and go down to 7,500. There's 8,800. 8,003. 7,500. Speed's coming down. That looks pretty good. I'm going to reduce my throttles just a little bit more. And you may have to hit the speed button again after that so that it will continue with your descent. Close enough to 10,000 feet, speed slow enough. Let's go ahead and do landing lights. Let the cabin crew know that we are going to be serious about doing that landing thing. You can also see where it says Localizer 1 is now in blue. So I'm going to go over here and resync my heading bug. I'm going to select heading mode. We're going to go down here and see where it says FMS 1. I'm going to dial the nav source 1 to the right, and now Localizer 1 is set. So there's our glide slope and localizer all set for the approach. We're currently on the 10-mile range, so I'm going to go and dial my map in one last click. So it's 10 miles. Getting ready to do things like rudder pedals, so I've also gone and made sure my chair is set up. If you're on a long cruise, you might have unlocked your chair or something like that. You really don't want to leave that out. Leave your chair unlocked. Now let's also go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and do my landing speeds button. And now my bugs are set for landing. We're going to make that 7,500 pretty good, so I'm going to go and reduce my speed even more to 180 knots. So there's 197. There's 187. That looks pretty good. Let's also roll out a little bit of flaps. I usually just hit it 3 times. So roll out 3 notches of flaps as I do my initial rollout of flaps. Let's also go ahead and rearm the thrust reversers. Make sure we're not getting too slow. Our descent is pretty good too. So that's looking good. At Euphemia, we need to be above 8,000 feet, so we could actually do our turn into the airport. So let's be sure and add a little bit of power. We don't want to get too slow. And let's go ahead and turn into the ILS here. So I'm going to go ahead and basically dial the heading over here to Beehive at 180 knots. Make sure we're not going too slow. Continue down to 7,500 feet for Beehive. Still continuing to dial this around here. Everything else is looking good on the panel there. Okay, 180 knots going down to 7,500. Remember, as we get close to 7,500, the speed's going to start to slow down on this airplane. So you got to be ready to increase your speed. But really, the rest of the airplane is in great shape. Famous last words, I know. We still have a localizer. We could hit the localizer button yet, but as we get closer, we're going to probably reacquire glide slope. And then we'll go ahead and hit the approach button. Let the airplane do a little bit of work for us there. There is 7,600. Altitude cap is flashing. We're getting a little bit slower here. I'm going to add some power. Add just a little bit of power here. I don't want to get too slow at the moment. There's 7,500. Keep adding just a little bit of power. That's good. Okay, I got glide slope, I got localizer. Let's go over here, and we're going to hit the APPR button, approach button, It's going to acquire our localizer, get us set up on the glide slope. All I'm going to do now is make sure I don't hit other airplanes and get too slow. We're going to keep our speed up to 180 right now. So don't want to go too fast or too slow. And then as we start to slow down just a little bit, as we start to slow down, as we start to our descent, we're going to speed up. So you got to ride the throttle there too. As we're on approach, go ahead and one last time, right click on the heading button, click the button. Just make sure your heading is set in case we have to do a missed approach. Speed is getting a bit slow here. I want to hold 180 and 7,500. I don't want to get too slow. That's 180, perfect. Airplane's looking pretty good. We got a little flap out there right now. Airport ahead looks like it's clear, so our runway is in decent shape. Okay, here it says 10-mile range, runway 16 right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to land. Please remain seated until we have stopped.
Generally, watching some other airports and things like that, one of the things that I've seen is they start to think about throwing out the landing gear between 5 and 10 miles out. So we're looking pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and do landing gear. And if you're all set up on your approach, it's always fun to watch landing gear come out on your airplane, because they do a really good job on a lot of these animations. Okay, we're good to go there. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set my VREF button at 134 knots. I always add about 5 to 10. And so we're going to start slowing the airplane down a little bit more. So I'm pulling my throttles back. And I usually use the 140 because it's easy to see from where I'm sitting as the speed that I'm going to try and hold on approach. Again, it's really hard to see down there. So I'm going to do that. Get ready for another notch of flaps. There's 140 or thereabouts. One more click of the flaps. And now I'm going to add a little bit of power here. I don't want to let it go below 140. Adding 10 to the landing speed like that kind of keeps you above stall speed. I'd rather not stall. Again, autopilot is still engaged. I'm going to let the airplane do the work. We're 5 miles out. I want to make sure that my speed is relatively happy. Up one for, let's add a little bit more. Little bit more there. I'm going to look over and take a look. My flaps are where I want them. My landing gear, I have green indicators on the gear, so we're good to go there. Nothing else to worry about. We'll take a look and see. Spoilers are armed. Reversers are armed. Seat belts. Okay, make sure you're seated in your chair. 1,000 feet above the ground, hand on the stick. I think the airplane and the autopilot have had enough fun. AP is off. Captain's got the airplane. Co-pilot starts crying. Flight attendant updates life insurance. Says flight spoilers deployed. I didn't think my spoilers were deployed. That's interesting. Says they're deployed. I don't want them deployed right now. Okay, got a little bit high on the descent. Reduce my throttle. Now, there's something you don't usually see over on the Spy Flight live stream, and that's 4 white pappy lights. Ah, there's a red one.
400.
Still a little bit high.
300. 200.
Okay, there's 2 red. This is actually pretty good.
Sync rate 100.
Add a little power. Pull the nose up. We don't want to
Sync
crash
rate,
into the ground.
40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh, he bounced. He bounced on the YouTube video. Reversers. Set. Decel. Let the nose fall to the ground. Push the stick forward just a bit. And manual braking. Stow the reversers, off on the high speed. A little more manual braking. Well, except for bouncing and stuff like that, that wasn't too terribly awful. Could have been worse. Landing rate was minus 130. I'll take a minus 130 any day. Okay, let's see here. Sometimes you have to slide over here just to see. Okay, there is Alpha. So this is the taxiway on the north side of the terminal. So we're coming on in here. On the north side, Concourse B, which is where we're supposed to go, is going to be out here in the middle. So as we come on in, let's put our flaps up. See, the roller just took off, flaps going up. So again, the scenery isn't updated, but we'll go into the general area anyway. Flaps are going up. We should also come over here. We're going to disarm the thrust reversers. That's good. We're also going to go and reach up here, open the door. We're going to turn off the landing lights. I'm going to turn off the strobes. And let's go ahead and start up the APU. Everything else is looking good. Throttles are at idle. The terminal should be somewhere over in here. Boy, you can also see we've got another scenery error up here. You can hear the APU coming up. Always a good skill in Microsoft Flight Simulator to be able to taxi outside the airplane. And that looks like a good spot to go ahead and do parking brakes. And let's look here and see, do we have an APU? Well, the APU is not quite good enough. So let's go over to the aircraft. They're going to go ahead and put a few chocks in place, so that's a nice thing. We could also let them go ahead and start rolling up a ground power unit. That's a nice thing to do too. We're not going to be moving the airplane anymore, so nose light is going to go off. The recognition taxi lights can go off too. We're also going to have ground crew around the airplane, so I like to turn the ProPede off. Fact is, I should have turned that off sooner because you don't want any. I guess they can get like burned. They can get burned on those things. Okay, the APU is up and running. So we can go back here. APU is good. Let's go ahead and lift the red lever, pull it back. Red lever, pull it back. There goes our engines. Engines are off. Beacon is going to go off. Seat belts are going to go off. Disarm the emergency exit lights. That's a good thing to do too. We're also going to go and do the left and right boost pumps. Hit the ground power button. And at this point we can go and open passenger doors. And here comes our passenger doors. And all of that is good. We've made it. And again, nobody was hurt, nobody was arrested. The only other things that we could do is we can clear the warnings and cautions. I'm also going to reach down here and turn the transponder to standby. Everything else is looking pretty good. I don't see any other real crazy warnings or any other problems there. Nothing else really to turn off up here at the moment. We'll let the passengers get off. The APU is running, so it's going to keep the airplane nice and cool. And welcome to Salt Lake City. Again, watch out for golf balls flying around if John flies out there doing that, but that should get you going. And hope that helped. Again, the thing to do on these is to stop and start the videos, roll it back if I was doing something that you didn't quite get. And the other big thing is, again, this is not the right way versus the wrong way. These are just my opinions as someone who's a flight simmer and a live streamer, and it's the stuff that works for me. This airplane is continuously being updated, so keep an eye out for updates. I do read all the questions and comments here on YouTube. So if I screwed something up and you say, wait a minute, that's not the way to do that, I do read questions and comments, and really would like to learn to fly this airplane the right way. If you like flight simming or travel or just want a nice place to hang around, I hope you'll join me over on Twitch. If you liked this video, my YouTube channel isn't big enough to generate any revenue, but you can come over and join the really cool people up there who have gifted and subbed and cheered on Twitch, and that would be really nice if you like what it is that you see here on YouTube. I will be back with some more cold and dark videos at some point in time. I'm also doing a regular series about live streaming here on the YouTube channel as well. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining me. I hope this video helped and you're having fun, and I'll look forward to seeing you over on the Friendly Skies on Twitch. 757 Spy, I will see you then. Cheers.